A teen's tragic death on a Carnival cruise ship is now a chilling FBI case, raising serious questions about safety at sea. Also, Carnival's surprising us with an adults-only pivot that's booming, one cruise line finally walking back a terrible decision, and the wildest social media spectacle, a viral deck brawl that got a group of live streamers immediately kicked off their ship. Plus, is your favorite Western Caribbean port about to become private property? Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. Now, I want to start off with the most serious topic, one that has everybody in cruise world talking. Now, deaths on cruise ships are unfortunately not uncommon. The average age of a cruiser tends to be pretty old. There are morgues on cruise ships. I've had passengers pass away on many cruises that I have been on as well. But what is unusual is when the person who passes away on a cruise is a young person, in particular a teenager, and it's also unusual when that death, for all appearances, seems to be foul play. Now, the story happened over this past weekend. I was in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. It was a crazy weekend. There was a lot of terrible things that were happening. There was a Miami police officer in his 20s that was shot and killed. There were actually several deaths of elderly cruisers on other cruisers in Port Everglades and Miami that happened that weekend. But the biggest story that got everybody's attention is what happened on board Carnival Horizon. And I'm sure you've heard it by now. It's really made the rounds. What happened was an 18-year-old guest named Anna Kepner died during her family's Western Caribbean cruise, which has, of course, triggered an FBI investigation. While the FBI does routinely investigate any non-natural death of an American citizen on the high seas, this specific case and the lack of concrete and immediate public detail surrounding it has just fanned the flames and intensified discussion. Now, my heart goes out for her family. This is a case that everyone is understandably talking about, and I posted about it actually myself because I had a lot of people emailing me. I had people who were on Carnival Horizon and saw some of the aftermath happening actually email me. So I made a post saying, hey, I don't know much about this case. I just know something happened on Carnival Horizon. Now, I had heard bits and pieces, and the rumor mill is going crazy. And I want to be careful what I say out of respect to her family. And her family has gone online and asked people to be respectful. They did come into my comments and said, please just be respectful. But this is a case, of course, that people are going to talk about. Now, official details are sparse, but what is kind of coming out to be, and I've heard this from cruisers on Horizon, take it for what you will, is that there was foul play involved. This young girl is 18 years old. She was cruising with her family, particularly her grandma, and she hadn't been seen since the night before. And there's some conjecture that I really don't want to share until it is official out of respect to the family, but it seems to commonly be understood at this point that her body was found wrapped in sheets underneath her stateroom bed. And I've also heard that her steward found her. Now, I don't want to go into any more detail than that. We'll wait until it hits mainstream media. That's not my job. I love sharing cruise news. I love sharing tips that people share with me. But again, I want to be respectful to the family because my heart goes out to her. I have a young daughter who's close to Anna's age, and flying home, it was all I could think about was this family coming home and having to deal with all of this. Like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It's just really a painful reminder that even on vacation, even when you're living your best life, even when you're having a great time, life can be fragile. And also we have to be vigilant. Now, Carnival's kind of tight-lipped. Of course, the law enforcement, they're tight-lipped as well, but it's pretty clear that there's some foul play here. And so that tells us too, we have to be vigilant. And I'm guilty of this as well. I recently took a cruise with my daughter who's close to Anna's age, got her own room, let her have free reign, just assumed everything is good. She's an adult, she can take care of herself, but we really do still have to be vigilant. Now, of course, if you're a cruiser, you know there are cameras absolutely everywhere. I am confident that whoever perpetrated this heinous crime will be caught, will face justice. Let's hope. I think this is going to be a huge case that is talked about for decades to come. But again, just a stark reminder that we have to be vigilant. And my heart goes out to Anna's family. So yeah, it was a crazy weekend in South Florida. It was a crazy weekend for cruisers. Lots of really shocking things happening. There were flight cancellations. My return flight home was canceled. I had to spend an extra day in Fort Lauderdale. And it was a whole lot of things happening. I also had a potential bed bug situation on a Royal Caribbean ship, specifically Radiance of the Seas. There was some debris, what I thought was debris in my bed. I posted about it and people came online to be like, girl, that's not debris. That looks like bed bug residue. Royal Caribbean came in and inspected. Actually, they inspected the wrong room and the couch first. I had to have them come back in. They inspected the actual correct room. They inspected the bed. They assured me there's no live bugs. They assured me it's not bed bugs. But whether or not it's actually bed bug remnants, I don't know. I came back home and I was very careful with my laundry out of an abundance of caution, just in case. But another thing we have to be vigilant about is bed bugs. I've gotten a little lax. I used to be super vigilant about it. I'm super OCD, but I actually had stopped kind of checking and doing my routine things when I get on a cruise ship. But here's a story that's going to remind you why you have to stay on your toes. I've learned that lesson myself the hard way with my was it not bed bug situation, but this also happened on a Carnival ship. So in case you haven't heard, 2 Carnival cruisers have filed a lawsuit alleging that a severe bedbug infestation in their stateroom left them with dozens of bites, medical issues, and significant financial losses because the remediation process, if you carry these critters home, is astronomical, and it required immediate medical attention upon disembarkation. Now, the real emotional core of this story, and where cruisers get frustrated and where this starts to make the viral rounds, is the claim that Carnival knew about similar bedbug issues on the same deck of the ship, being Carnival Horizon. Yes, the same Carnival Horizon that I talked about with the death. I sailed Carnival Horizon back in April. I'm convinced that ship has some moisture issues. I actually spotted some growing mold on the ceiling, made a video, went viral. Carnival wasn't really happy about it, but they painted over it. I don't think they remediated it. I can't say for sure if it was mold, but whatever. So I can believe that Carnival knew about it, especially on Carnival Horizon. But these cruisers allege that Carnival knew about it. They knew that they've had similar bedbug issues, specifically on this particular deck of Carnival Horizon. And instead of addressing it properly and being aggressive to mitigate it, they kind of hand-waved and poo-pooed it away. Now, a bedbug story, it's always going to generate anxiety, especially me. I've been kind of personally somewhat affected by this recently. But this is truly horrific. I'm thankful that apparently there were no real bugs in my stateroom bed. I don't know that for sure, but I was very, very careful when I came home. I didn't have any bites, so I think I'm okay. But this is a truly horrific case. My heart goes out to these cruisers. I can't imagine having bug bites all over your body, requiring medical attention, and having that stuff in your home. It's just truly terrible. Now, if the allegations of Carnival's prior knowledge of this are proven true, it kind of fundamentally breaks that contract of trust that we as cruisers have with the cruise line. And this is a frustration that I have with these cruise lines. They seem to not take these things seriously. As I told you, my own personal experience this past weekend on a Royal Caribbean ship, Radiance of the Seas, they really didn't take it very seriously. I tried really hard to speak to the hotel director. They wouldn't let me speak to him. I didn't want to do the whole, I make videos, don't you know who I am? Not going to do that. It took a lot of persistence, multiple calls, and an in-person visit to guest services to get them to pay any attention at all. And then when they figured out, oh, this chick makes videos, then all of a sudden they paid a lot more attention and took it much more seriously. But I was really frustrated. I was really disappointed by Royal Caribbean's lack of care, concern, and attention to this matter. So I am not surprised at all to hear about what this couple is alleging happened to them on a Carnival cruise ship. And as I mentioned, I also had my own issue on Carnival Horizon, ironically enough, where I spotted what appeared to be and what smelled to be black mold growing on the ceiling tiles, and they basically poo-pooed it away until my video went viral. Then they literally came in and were painting over the tiles. I can't say for sure it was mold. I can't say for sure I had bed bugs on Royal Caribbean, but as cruisers, we can't just hand over all of our trust to these cruise lines. And if something happens on a cruise, if you see something, say something. If they try to hand wave you away, persist, persist, persist. And I hate to say it, but sometimes you gotta go to social media, or in this particular case with these Carnival cruisers, you gotta file a lawsuit in order to get some actual attention. We book cruises expecting clean, safe environments, and we should not have to worry about things like mold and bed bugs and stuff like that, especially when the cruise lines have been made aware of it. So this is where our preparedness as cruisers comes in. As I said, this is not just a Carnival issue. The bed bug situation here is Carnival, but I've had mold issues on Carnival. I had potential bed bug issues recently on Royal Caribbean. It happens across all cruise lines, especially because if you think about it, how fast these stewards are turning these staterooms around. A cruise ship disembarks, they're frantically cleaning rooms, a new group of passengers get on. These rooms are not properly cleaned. So I recommend doing what I do. I got sloppy, as I noted and admitted, but I'm gonna be extra vigilant. Take the time when you get in that stateroom. I know you're super excited to start your cruise vacation. Pull those sheets back. Look in the seams of the mattress. That's where I saw my debris on my Royal Caribbean ship. Look around the headboard. A lot of place people don't think to look is the wooden nightstands, because yes, bed bugs can get in wood. I learned a lot when I posted this video. I had all the pest experts giving me all their best tips and feedback and best practices, so it was very helpful. So look along the seams, use your phone's flashlight to shine along, and then here's a great tip. Take a hairdryer and blow the hot air along the seams, because if there are already critters in there, that heat will draw them out. What you're gonna look for are small rust-colored spots, or of course the bugs themselves. It's obvious if you see moving bugs. It's not so obvious when you see those rust-colored spots, which is what I think I saw on my mattress on Radiance. So it is annoying to have to do this, but it is a critical step. You gotta do this. You gotta look for these things, and also disinfect your remote. That's not related to bed bugs, that's related to germs, because norovirus is rampant on cruises. So be vigilant. Now let's move from safety concerns and being vigilant to a viral fight. Yes, another one. This time it was Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas, and they had to make an unexpected stop in Roatan, Honduras to remove passengers after a brawl broke out on deck. Now, the ship had departed from Galveston on November 2nd, and the incidents involved a group of Kick live streamers. And if you're of a certain big age, that includes me, what you should know is that Kick is an online platform like Twitch. You're probably like, what the hell's Twitch? They're basically live streaming platforms. People broadcast live videos, usually playing video games, but other content as well. Now, the reports confirm that 2 key streamers were removed from the ship. Now, there was a larger group of them that had been wreaking havoc and causing chaos for days, filming, harassing guests, blocking sightlines during shows, ignoring security warnings, all for the clicks and the views and the content. Now, the confrontation escalated into this physical fight between 2 of the men, and the video quickly spread across social media, and that for Royal Caribbean was the final straw. They did finally act, removing the 2 main combatants at the first port of call in Roatan in Honduras, and told the entire group that their vacation was over. But I want to know, do you think Royal Caribbean acted quickly enough here? Should they have let this escalate to this? Or do you think that Royal Caribbean was in a basically difficult situation? Now, of course, some people are calling for a ban of getting content on cruise ships. I hope that doesn't happen. As a cruise content creator myself, I try to not be disruptive. I try not to film other cruisers without their permission. I try not to show them. I try never to be disruptive to other cruisers. But if people are doing it intentionally to provoke people, I think cruise lines need to come down with an iron fist. Because of course, cruise ships are private property. They have every right to enforce their code of conduct and to set the rules as they would like them. This is a reminder, a cruise is not a private stage. And if you do film people, try to be mindful, get their permission, don't show faces. I see people in cruise forums sometimes trying to shame or embarrass other cruisers, and they take photos of them and post them without their permission. I think that's kind of icky, so I try never to do those types of things, and I hope others have that common courtesy as well. Now, for a little bit of a pivot, but a huge business twist. Okay, I'm gonna nerd out. You know, I'm a business professor, so I love talking nerdy. In this case, we're gonna talk about Carnival again, but this is a positive thing. I do not hate Carnival. In fact, I'm Carnival's #1 fan. I really am. But I'm not gonna be shy about calling them out when they're on some BS. But this is a good thing for Carnival. Now, Carnival is known as being the fun ships, and part of that is being family friendly. But they are now rapidly expanding their adults-only sea cruises, SEA, that stands for Sailings Exclusively for Adults. And what started out as just some invitation-only voyages targeted to casino players primarily has proven to be wildly popular. So they are now offering additional sailings on these sea cruises, these adult-only cruises, into early 2026. Now, I find this really interesting because while these sailings are still somewhat niche and centered around casino players, by the way, I have a guide to casino playing on cruise ships and how you can get free cruises. I'll drop the link below if you want to check that out. But while sailings are still centered around these casino players, the demand has been so strong that Carnival has seen the success and the demand for it, and as I mentioned, have expanded the number of voyages, and these expanded voyages are selling out super fast. So this demonstrates basic supply and demand, that there's a huge underserved demand from Carnival's loyal customer base who want to sail without kids, even their own kids sometimes, but who love that Carnival atmosphere. Now, historically as a cruiser in America, if you want an adults only experience, you're limited to Virgin Voyages. Now, I love Virgin Voyages. I love the fact that it's adults only. I love most things about it, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. And until these sea sailings, that's kind of been your only option. So a lot of loyal Carnival fans are excited about this because that allows Carnival to maintain their core family-friendly brand, but also strategically capture that kid-free segment. And I have kids, I cruise with them, I cruise with my nieces and nephews all of the time too. I love kids usually, but it's really nice sometimes to have a cruise where you aren't bothered by the stress of kids. So I think it's a pretty smart segmentation strategy, and I suspect that the success of this will lead to other mainstream cruise lines following suit if this popularity holds. The cruise industry is already starting to realize that family cruisers are often exhausted parents who want a low-cost, all-inclusive, well, all-inclusive nowadays, convenient break that doesn't involve moving up to some luxury line. And sometimes when you cruise with kids, you come home more tired than you were before you left for the cruise. So I want to know what you think. Are you excited about more adults-only offerings, or do you think family-friendly and kids included is the way? Now, in another business-related topic, this is another one that I love to see. Not so great for the cruise line in question, but I'm happy about it because I think it's good for cruisers and good for consumers. Norwegian Cruise Line has decided to walk back a stupid move. Carnival, pay attention. It's possible. Your VIFP changes, walk them back. It's not too late, friends. But anyway, Norwegian Cruise Line has seen the light. They've decided to ditch their relatively short-lived More at Sea program and bring back an updated version of their legendary Free at Sea. This switch is effective as of November 5th, and it's a big sigh of relief for Norwegian fans who felt that the last version was just a little too complicated and confusing to book. Side note, Virgin Voyages, I just told you, I love you. You've recently made some changes kind of like this. I think it's a boneheaded move. Listen and see what Norwegian's doing. Walk it back. It's not too late for you either. Anyway, I digress. The refreshed Norwegian Free at Sea program is trying to lean into simplicity and value because these cruise lines make it too damn complicated. They got these bundles and these tiers and it includes this and that. No. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. Now, this package bundles the popular perks, a beverage package, specialty dining credits, a chunk of Wi-Fi minutes. I don't know how I feel about the minute restriction, but whatever, and a shore excursion credit. Now, here's the important nuance. While the name is back, the terms have been simplified, but they're not identical to the original Free at Sea. So if you've cruised with Norwegian in the past, you're used to that, it's still gonna be different. For example, they've now standardized the daily beverage gratuity cost to $28.50 per person per day, regardless of cruise length, and they've standardized the Wi-Fi at 150 minutes per person in the stateroom, regardless of the cruise length, which is actually a significant bump for many cruisers. This is a perfect example of cruise line actually listening to their customers, listening to the market, and realizing that sometimes it's that legacy naming and the simple structures that are best for driving consumer purchases and bookings, even if they do tweak the fine print to manage cost and expectations better. So if you are comparing Norwegian Cruise Line with other lines, this simplified bundle, it's a major factor to calculate into your total vacation cost when you're comparing apples to apples. Well, Carnival Cruise Line and others are now saying goodbye, at least for now, to a popular cruise port destination. Carnival Dream did a call at Costa Maya last week, and while it wasn't her very last call ever, many Carnival ships are dramatically reducing their visits to this cruise port starting in late 2026. Why? Well, this is now becoming Royal Caribbean's turf. Royal Caribbean has made a massive power play by acquiring and transforming the port of Costa Maya into what they're branding Perfect Day Mexico. They took administrative control of the port in July 2025, and this massive multi-million-dollar development is set to open in late 2027. So we've known about this for a while, but we're now starting to see many mainstream competitors make their last calls there, which makes it a little timely. Now, this is a game changer for the entire Western Caribbean market because this is a popular cruise port destination. I love Costa Maya. I've got my go-to place, Nacional. It's a private beach club. Highly recommend, love it. But this is an aggressive move by Royal Caribbean to try to replicate the success of their Perfect Day at Coco Cay in the Bahamas, which I was just there last week. Great place, love it. I hope Perfect Day at Mexico is just as good as Perfect Day at Coco Cay. But here's the insight that you need. Royal Caribbean and celebrity guests will have access to this new exclusive, highly developed new property, which will include everything from massive pools to private beachfront areas. Now, the original pier is contractually obligated to remain open to all cruise lines, even during and after the build period. However, when you step off a non-royal ship, you're gonna walk right past all the fun, freshly built, expensive, new fancy stuff at Perfect Day Mexico. That entrance is gonna be closed to you and you gotta walk out into actual Costa Maya. Now, for me, I don't think that's a bad thing. I do love Perfect Day Coco Cay. Again, I was just there. I think it's fantastic. It's great, but it is very theme parkified. I like to be immersed in the culture. And in Costa Maya, there's a great culture. You've got Mahahul, you've got the Malacan, like I said, you've got Nacional. There are local suppliers and vendors there that rely on tourism business. So I will say, even when I cruise Royal Caribbean, I will probably visit Perfect Day Mexico at some point. I want to check it out, but I don't just want to like necessarily sit in a theme park all day. I like to get out and about and see the local culture. So I'm not too upset about this. I still would go to Costa Maya, even on a non-Royal Caribbean ship, even if it meant just exploring actual Costa Maya. But that's a big change that's going to affect many cruisers. As I mentioned, Carnival is scaling back significantly starting in late 2026, shifting itineraries to places like Progresso, not my favorite port, Cozumel, which is an awesome port, and their own private destinations. So the competition for the best Western Caribbean itinerary is just getting started. And that's perfect timing because Royal Caribbean just announced their move of Icon of the Seas to Galveston. Man, Texas, you got it going on. Galveston has been getting so many upgrades and new ships. MSC has a new ship out of there, just started sailing. You got a lot of things going on. So I'm excited to see these big new mega ships coming to Galveston, but I want to know what you think. Drop your comments below and let's talk ship.